Coming in now. So good morning, everybody. It's good to see, good to know you that you're there. Welcome to our webinar today, which is the topic is developing a company health and wellbeing program to drive employee engagement. Just to give you a quick overview of what we're going to talk about today, we're looking at the fact that ensuring employees are happy and here is a growing focus for many HR departments. Most employers run ad hoc wellbeing activities in the workplace over the course of a typical year, often tying in with a national awareness raising day or a campaign involving changing a particular health-related behaviour, for example, National Stress Awareness Day or No Smoking Day. However, moving from this kind of approach to a more strategic wellbeing programme requires a significant degree of planning aligned with the organisation's broader business or service plan. Today we're going to hear from Niall Conway, and I'll introduce you to him in just a moment. And he's going to talk us through the concept of a health and wellbeing programme and what that means in terms of general employee engagement and their physical and mental well-being. He's going to discuss the reasons why a business may have one and what are the benefits and potential costs of introducing an EE programme. Niall will also discuss the different types of wellbeing initiatives that businesses may consider for their staff and summarise then with a quick guide to a successful health and wellbeing programme. So that's the topic under discussion today. Just to give you a quick brief on Niall himself, he's a senior training and organisational development consultant who trades under Conway Consulting, and he wears two hats. 2 days a week he's a HR and engagement manager for a small manufacturing company, and the other 3 he concentrates on all things training and organisational development. The sexy stuff, as he calls it. So Niall, I'll hand over to you, and just to let everybody know that you're welcome to put your questions into the chat box at any time. We'll pick them up at the end. But we'd like to get some interaction from you and get some feedback about what your feelings are and what you do. So just let us know. Any comments along the way would be great to hear. So thank you, Niall. I'll hand over to you.
Okay, Anna, has the screen shared yet there?
Not yet.
Okay, so give us a wee second to do that.
There we go.
Okay, I think that's it there now. Okay, folks, you're all very welcome. So I'll just get stuck in here, and thanks, Anna, for that introduction. So folks, really what I'm going to talk about today is developing a company health and wellbeing program. And as Anna has mentioned, and I'm going to map it into kind of the wider employee engagement piece as well. So I suppose the times that are in it, looking after employees, and there's been a lot of talk, I suppose, in lockdown of mental health issues and all of that. So I guess maybe no better time. I appreciate that there's a lot of companies that are struggling out there and all of this, but still looking after employees is always going to be very important. So when considering the subject matter for today, I did consider, should I keep it to just something specific in terms of health and well-being, or maybe open it up to the wider employee engagement piece. But I just, as I said there, because really the times that are in it, and because of maybe time constraints, I just decided to concentrate on developing the health and wellbeing program. But suffice to say, that is key to and an integral part of your wider employee engagement strategy or initiatives that you might have. So, okay, so I'll press on. Okay, so this is what I'm going to cover in this session. So firstly, why do we have a health and wellbeing program? So what are the potential benefits? So I'm going to cover that. And then I'm going to cover an interesting wee slide, hopefully for you, will be again, this is mapping into engagement, and it's called Who's Sinking Your Boat. So what does that mean in plain terms? It means who in your company or organization is draining your energy, draining your resources unnecessarily. So there's a slide we use quite a lot in terms of explaining engagement, and it's the boat. Who's going to tip your boat over? So we'll cover more of that in a second. So then I'm going to cover the different types of well-being initiatives that are out there. Now, I'm very conscious that which is great to see the guys that have signed up today. There's people from construction industry, education, hospitality, retail, manufacturing, which is great. It's great variety. So we're going to cover elements here: physical, mental, and general employee engagement. And what I would say, irrespective of the industry that you're in, as I go through, and I have a list of all the potential things you can do within physical, within mental, and within the general employee engagement. I think the beauty of this is that you can really, most or all of the suggestions that I have are applicable to all the companies and types of companies that I suggested, maybe with a bit of tweaking here and there. Also, I would appreciate that there's some people are this may be very new to them, and hopefully they will get a lot out of today. But even if you're a lot more established and down the road in terms of your engagement strategy or well-being programs, hopefully this is the very least will be a good refresher. But you may pick up one or two small nuggets along the way just to augment what you already have. So there'll be a few ideas that we'll throw out there in terms of physical, mental, general employee engagement. And then finally, and this is arguably maybe what you will find most beneficial, is I'll cover at the end doing a quick guide to introducing health and well-being program. And I can assure you I've learned the hard way. I've probably done 4 or 5 of these over the years in terms of in-house HR as I was, or in consultancy role. And you do make mistakes along the way, and I'm no different to that. So thankfully, you live and learn, and I picked up a few good tips that hopefully I can share with you. So hopefully that will definitely be useful for you, and we'll kind of close off on that. So let's press on. So just like kind of setting the scene or context and background before I go through the nitty gritty of the physical, mental, and general engagement suggestions. So, what are the benefits of having a health and well-being engagement program? So, the potential benefits, and I think we all know this, and I'm not going to sit here and spout all these figures and guarantee you will save or reduce X amount of percentage, because any type of engagement or well-being program um, is so almost has to be tailored to your business and your organization, and what you will get out of it will be different to the next person. So I'm not going to suggest that you're guaranteed X amount of percent, but the general areas that you could be looking to improve could be reduce your turnover, the amount of leavers that you might have, reducing absenteeism. I guess those top two are the kind of the two main metrics or KPIs that HR folks like to look at in terms of their business. It could be to try and improve or increase your sales, your production, customer satisfaction, depending on the business that you're in. And obviously, the more softer side of things, just generally, hopefully it will be improving your morale and the whole element of behaviors improved, and improving your company culture, whatever that may be. So quite often, if we hear and see the term engagement, we get all these kind of highfalutin Harvard professors talking, with this great quote that's talking about engagement. And for me, I like to keep things cheap and cheerful. I like to keep things simple at times, because that's what people, in the lower rungs of the company understand. And I think that's the most important bit, which is my own humble opinion and all that. So what is a definition of engagement for me? It is very simply that your staff enjoy going to work. They have some sense of fulfillment or job satisfaction to a lesser or greater degree, and that they're proud to work there and would recommend the company to a friend. So, as a wee piece of reflection, I want you to think on that number 3 there. You may have, think about it this way: you may have introduced in your company, or you may have completed like a staff survey at some stage over the years, and quite often there's the different sections that people that is there to try and tease out things like, what do the employees think about pay and benefits? How do they feel their line managers treating them? What do they feel about training and development? But for me, and as important as all they are, for me, arguably, whenever I see these questions in there, that's what I go to first, because a real sense of your how important the employer brand is for your employees, or how engaged they is, are they proud to work there, and would they recommend the company to a friend? So it's just a wee piece of reflection for you. Okay, so in short, what is all this health and well-being programs or engagement programs? In short, they're a recruitment and a retention tool. Okay, so just another wee piece of reflection here before I close out on this slide. According to Kroner, which is a large HR consultant based in GB, the average cost of employee turnover is £11,000, which is mainly made up of indirect costs. The extra training time and extra time you put into, getting someone up to speed in the job. Will be a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 3 months, whatever it might be. There's obviously the direct cost of maybe advertising the post as well. So why am I saying this? So if you're in a small manufacturing company or engineering company, and a manager goes to the MD and goes, or the accountant, and we know our MDs out there and accountants love to spend money. So they they go to their MD and go, right, I've got a new machine. It's going to cost 11 grand. Can we bring it in? That MD or financial controller will say, well, that's great, but give me a bit more information about it. How is it going to work? Let's do a bit of benchmarking. What other companies are going to have used it, and why is it successful? They may ask you to pull together a presentation, because bottom line, they'll want, what is the return on investment in this? So quite often when you're spending that amount of money, you will put some kind of thought or analysis into it. Think about that in terms of people. Someone leaves the company, getting back to the average cost of employee turnover. Someone leaves the company, costs 11 grand. Now, I know some of you sitting there may be a coffee owner or a restaurant owner, and you may have a lot of part-time employees, and that may not be 11 grand. But taking the stat as it is, if that's costing us an average 11K, someone leaves the company, it's just, okay, let's get a replacement. The same thought and analysis and potential return on investment as I cited the example of the guy looking to bring in a new piece of kit, a new piece of machinery, is very, very different. So it's okay, let's just get a replacement. So at the end of the day, as I have down at the very bottom there, let's face it, it's all about money. It's all about turnover for any company, and that's why we're in business. Again, just a wee piece of reflection. Right, we'll move on. Right, so the slide I talked about, who's sinking your boat. So again, this is a kind of a piece of reflection for you. So whenever we talk about employee engagement in the broader sense, quite often that we would use this slide, and you can see, just you may make out the black boat on top of the blue choppy waters there, and all the people in red inside. So this stat, and there's a video to accompany this. If you ever want to Google this, on YouTube it, who's sinking your boat, employee engagement. So if you were to, what this slide is essentially saying is that you have on the left-hand side, you've got 30% of your employees at any one time fully engaged. Fully engaged. On the opposite end of the spectrum, you've got 18% actively disengaged. You'd argue they probably shouldn't even be still with you. Maybe they've just taken the wrong job. Maybe they've been segued into the wrong job or whatever, or been there a long time and they're just switched off. So the disengaged portion, which is 52% of your employees, they're disengaged. That might be a bit of a harsh term. Maybe you could say that they're just not positively engaged as the 30%ers are. But the point is still the same. And I guess the theory of engagement and the theory why we do well-being programs, employee engagement programs, is you want to try and shift even 10, 15, 20% of those people from your disengaged into your fully engaged. So that's the premise of any employee engagement and well-being program. So, quite often I'm asked by MDs or accountants or financial controllers to, well, how can you quantify that? So some of the metrics that I mentioned in the previous slide, turnover and absenteeism is a couple of your key ones. But when it comes to people, it's not always just as simple as that. So I know we could have a discussion that alone that could take 40 minutes, but so we'll leave that and park that for another day. But again, just a piece of reflection. Think about your company. Is that an accurate reflection? Maybe not. Okay, so we'll move on. So guys, at this stage, as Anna alluded to, I'm going to go through a litany of suggestions here that I would have used over the years in terms of wellbeing programs, in terms of some physical wellbeing initiatives. This slide, the next slide, it will be mental wellbeing initiatives, and then just general employee engagement. So I do welcome if anybody has any thoughts or ideas, or as I go through the list here, none of this is rocket science. A lot of it may not be new to you, but in terms of just keeping it interactive, I'm really keen to hear, if you guys have maybe introduced some of these things, and if it has worked, why it's worked, so maybe you want to put a comment or a question, and we'll cover it off at the end of the slide. So what are some of the physical well-being initiatives? Look, as I said, a lot of stuff is pretty straightforward. There's no rocket science here. I'm not going to explain every single bullet point here because they're essentially self-explanatory. One or two I may stop and pause and give a bit of commentary, just to share some of my experience with. But reduced gym membership, does what it says on the tin. Walking, running, cycling clubs that people may get involved in. Very good from a social point of view, very good from a physical point of view. And we know that the physical well-being ties in naturally into the mental well-being as well. Maybe doing things like the marathon relay teams. I did a contract a couple of years ago with NI Water, and we had 3 or 4 teams there that did the Belfast Marathon relay teams. Now, I'm very much a field footballer and played a lot of sport, but not the best of runners in this world, but I really enjoyed doing that. 5 miles, I got the glory leg on the way home down the Ormo Road and Ravenhill Road, which is great buzz. And we had 4 teams within NI Water. And not that I'm competitive, but our team won. So really good buzz, and things, the likes of those can be really, really good. Things like if you're a bit more adventurous, mud runs and other team events that people can do. Cycle to work scheme. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of that cycle to work scheme, where you could basically buy a bike, and because it goes through payroll, you can get a 30% saving because you don't have to pay national insurance or tax on it, and you don't have to cycle to work every day. It's just good to have. You can get, some people do this around October time, so they can have use it as a Christmas present for a kid or a grandkid, the likes of that. So that can be useful as well. A lot of companies use that. Weight loss program. So, and where I'm working now as HR engagement manager part-time, we've set up a wee wellbeing committee forum, as we call it. And one of the many things that we're doing in January, we're doing a pound for pound challenge. So what's a pound for pound challenge? So if you have 10, 12, 20 people, doesn't matter how many it is, you can have that for the month of January. You can run it right through to February. And for how many pounds in weight people lose, the company will match, make a donation to a local or designated charity. So that I've done that before, and that gets a bit of publicity for the company, and it's a good bit of social interaction as well. So that's something that's quite useful and quite easy to do. So all of those top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you look at those now, you can see that, and we talked about monies earlier, you can be very creative and very proactive. Those top 5 will not cost your company any money, other than your time and maybe your wellbeing forum or committee just getting involved and coordinating that. There is no outlay. So again, when your MD or financial accountant or whatever challenges you, some of this stuff can be done really easily and fairly inexpensive. So smoking cessation classes, again, for obvious reasons, and I've asterisked that for a reason, so I would remember to say this. So smoking cessation classes, whenever I did this, I did my first health and wellbeing program back 6, 7 years ago. It just so tied in with it was cancer focus. We actually had an offer, call it what you may, but basically they came in and did smoking cessation seminars and then followed up with the people who wanted to do it in one-to-one, and they did it for free, as they say, because it was just they had monies from government or the health board or whatever at that time. So again, it just shows you can do a lot of this fairly cheaply and still be quite proactive at the same time. So you can watch out for something that is maybe free initiatives. So again, that went down really well. We had 12 people. I think we'd only one really 6 months later was a non-smoker. 3 or 4 fell off the wagon, but it was a good initiative and well appreciated by the people at the time. Lots of people are doing companies doing cancer awareness, even into alcohol awareness sessions. We'll talk a bit more about the cancer awareness later on because that's a big theme, and a lot of companies are doing that at the minute. Yeah, speakers, the diet, nutrition, sleep. There's a lady I've used quite a bit or a couple of times. There's a lady called Jane McClanahan, and so like for example, we talk about even thinking about this strategically or helping your people or HR strategy. So at the minute when I'm doing my 2-3 days a week in a manufacturing company, we have guys on shift. So Jane is going to do a session after Christmas. She's going to do one for a regular one and one for our shift staff. So those guys they're struggling with sleep and just how the body copes with all of that. We're doing continental shifts, so sleep, diet, nutrition, all maps into one. So and in terms of a lot of people doing remote working at the minute, that's going to be online, but she's okay with that being recorded, and anyone misses out can tune into that later on. So the likes of those are really, really useful and are really, really appreciated by employees. So then the other ones, there's quite a few companies have done the on-site online yoga, Pilates, companies I know over the lockdown, some of the larger companies maybe have done Wellness Wednesdays, maybe that's tying in with their good friend Joe Wicks, the fitness instructor who's doing stuff online, all of that stuff, so that you really are getting it out there. So in the modern technology as we're doing today, Zoom, there's lots of stuff that you can do online as well. So healthy eating clubs, Fruit Fridays, a lot of companies are doing that. Again, self-explanatory, don't need to talk around that. Employee annual health check, flu jabs. Well, again, flu jabs so important. As an asthmatic, I get my flu jab every year without fail. And a lot of companies now are just doing that as a perk. And again, it's well appreciated. And maybe tying that in with maybe the health MOT annual health check as well. Maybe tying in with occupational health if you have one ongoing, or maybe a local GP clinic. One quick story about I did a piece of work this time last year for a small company. They're a sporting body, and I went up and did a presentation to them about all things engagement and well-being, and very, very new to them, kind of got some strange looks. Anyway, not long after that, one of the first things we did the employee health check and flu jab. And this person, a lot of people online here will I'm not going to name them or name the sporting body, but a lot of people online would know who this person is. And something was flagged in their employee health check. Now, it wasn't going to be fatal, but it was better that getting treated sooner rather than later. That the feedback we got from that was fantastic. We had to do very little PR or selling in terms of the strategies we had for well-being and engagement thereafter, because that was just very it just was because of the person who it was. It was again just well received, and people appreciated what we were doing there. So that's all our physical well-being. I don't know, Anna, if anybody has forwarded any comments or any questions I could take at this point.
I think everybody's a little bit shy right now. So if you have any comments or you want to join in here, just shout away. I mean, from my own point of view, there's some fantastic ideas there. I love the idea of those awareness sessions and the guest speakers. And obviously, lots of those things can be adapted, as you say, for people who are working from home, and as so many of us are at the moment. I remember from my own point of view as an employee at a place I worked in London, doing one of the tough mudders run. And in terms of team bonding, I mean, there's nothing better, to get down and dirty with your team, and at the same time raise money for the chosen charity. So that was a really great experience.
Yeah, maybe I could just jump in there, Niall, as well. I think this is a great idea, the physical well-being thing, because I know if in some of the things, if you nominate a charity of choice, maybe for the business, and sometimes you can get things that are very much active, like you're walking, running, swimming, cycling, all that kind of stuff. And some people do feel a little bit left out because they may not enjoy, they're just not, it's not their thing. So things like, just trying to things like cake sales and pumpkin carving and photo competitions as well. All these things can be good as well. But I just could just raise a point from your first couple of slides, just in relation to the £11,000.
Yeah.
That's the cost, I suppose, of replacing somebody, really. But there's also that individual, if they're effective in your company, the loss of sales, if you'd say, because they're a great performer and you lose them, then you've all that additional sales and revenue loss as well on top of all that. And of course, if you've 18% of people who are not actually effectively engaged, there's a potential loss of sales there as well, but not dealing with that as well, So it's interesting. When you look at and you put the numbers down on a page, it's actually fairly stark, isn't it?
It is stark. Yeah, it is, Paul. And if you were to Google employee turnover cost, you will get anything from 5K to 30K. So I use an average one there, but it is those indirect costs that you've alluded to, and as I say, whenever you're going to buy a new piece of kit, you can see it physically and you can, maybe measure it. But the people side of things often is forgot about, it's the intangible, because you can't measure it, you can't put a chart about it on a wall. It's easy just to forget about it, So I guess so that was a piece of reflection, yeah. And I just go back to yourself. See the mud runs. We did that, as I say, my first employee engagement and wellbeing program way back 6-7 years ago, and I was working in a small factory, 300 people, and the first person who signed up to that was a lady who was 63 years of age, and there was 4 or 5 did it. And again, it's all about that team bit, the social bit, and getting a few photographs, putting them up on the wall. It's fantastic. And it is, there's a list there, and I'll talk about 2 or 3 slides time, about having maybe a calendar of events through, maybe do that quarterly or every 6 months, and you as an individual, you might only be interested in one of those, and that's fine, because you will hit on all of your employees at some stage. It might take 2 months, it might take 10 months, but that social side of things, the mud runs, the relay teams, you're hitting mental, you're hitting physical, you're hitting employee morale, employee branding, not suggesting everyone's going to go home and kiss their badge, every night after a day's work, but it all helps, So, okay, well, I'll maybe move on to the mental well-being elements. And again, if there is, I, like everyone else, would be very reticent to share a comment or a question, so I get all that. So mental well-being initiatives. Okay, firstly, mental health awareness training for managers. Again, I put an asterisk there to remind me. Very recently, I have in where I'm working 2 to 3 days a week, I have again through Inspire Wellbeing, which is a company that does really, it's an employee assistance program, will help you with a lot of well-being, mental health issues. They had a bunch of monies from the lottery funded, and they were doing free training for managers that I just could wind off. And there was an online session for an hour. It's something that I wanted to, it was really a stepping stone. I want to augment that and develop that. But at least it was a good starting point for managers. Again, it shows you that you don't always have to spend an awful lot of money to get the ball rolling in terms of, mental well-being. Mental health first aiders. This is an interesting one because I've been doing a piece of work recently with business in the community, and cut a long story short, there's 2 or 3 construction companies on there. I know that I think there may be someone from maybe Kevin Watson's group there, and one of the architecture groups as well, maybe listening in. It was a couple of companies that were large construction companies in Northern Ireland. And I have to put myself in this bracket as well. The older male who doesn't want to speak about anything maybe other than football, let alone health issues or mental health issues. These construction companies introduced mental health first aiders. Now, a lot of the larger companies are doing that. So, and they have found it really beneficial. So, well, what is a mental health first aider if you're not aware? It's really, you'd have to do a 2-day course in this. Really, that is, you're not a trained counselor. It doesn't go that far. Essentially, what you are really, if someone is struggling for whatever reason, that you can approach a mental health first aider, and you are really the sounding board first and foremost. They're not there to give, direct advice. They're there then to signpost to occupational health or to, the employee assistance program if a company has it, or whatever organizations that are out there that might help you. So a lot of companies are using that, and I was just refreshing to see, without generalizing and stereotyping, that construction companies have a lot of male people, 40 plus, whatever. It was good to see the likes of those companies also using mental health first aiders, and it being very, very, very effective. They gave a couple of stories that actually saved lives. So what more beneficial can it have, So that was good. Occupational health service in a similar vein. You may or may not have that. You may be a smaller company and you may only tap into occupational health service ad hocly, but you might want to use that. The EAP program, again, which I alluded to there, is an employee assistance program, and Inspire Wellbeing is one of the more common ones. There are other ones out there. And again, if you're a smaller company, you may not have that. You would have to pay a retainer. It could be anything depending on the size of your company, 2, 3, 4 grand a year. But that is essentially, it does a lot more than this, but essentially it is at the very basic level, a counselling service. That if someone is feeling underpaid for whatever reason, whether it be financial, drugs, alcohol, whatever, it could be marital problems, relationship problems, falling out with her indoors or whatever, you can, at any stage, you can phone up and have a trained counsellor based in Northern Ireland for that area that you're struggling in. And if you need be, you can go on and do some face-to-face sessions. There's usually a section in there to help managers who are coping maybe with stress as well, blah, blah, blah. So that's really, really good. And the beauty of that, tying us back and how this can be strategic as well, is that most of those employee assistance programs will only be work if they're confidential. So companies don't know who has funds, but what they will get at the end of the year is a report of how many people use the service and for what reason. Was it for drugs, for marital reasons, for alcohol, for stress, whatever. And if there's one significant area that's coming out of that, then that will help form your people strategy, well-being strategy, maybe going forward. Maybe you do have to do some more work on mental health awareness with your managers to equip them better, because maybe there's more issues out there than you believe. So again, it's just showing how this can tap into the wider strategic piece. Financial awareness sessions, including the likes of pensions and mortgages. We did that again when I first did my first program. It was amazing how many people actually availed of that. I'm not particularly good with money, so I really appreciated the pensions advice, because pensions, to concentrate on that for a moment, is just a minefield. I've been working in HR for 20 plus years, and I know very little about it. I should know a lot more, but it was a minefield. So the likes of that, people really, really appreciate. Free will writing service. I think the stat, I remember when we did that, it was something like 30%, or maybe it was more, 33% of people over 40 don't have a will. So we brought in, we did a free will writing service, and a lot of larger companies, public sector companies, now do that almost as a de rigueur now. So again, that's something that you might want to think about. Various other guest speakers, we talked about the sleep or the diet, nutrition, but just in terms of maybe mindfulness and things like that. And again, times that are in it, you know, work-life balance is so important. Flexible working policy without veering into the whole HR field too much, but flexible working policy. A lot of people are working remotely, you know, varying their hours for reasons, and that's going to change even whenever we go back to the old normal. You know, flexible working has changed, I guess, forever. Book club, something cheap and cheerful. I know they've just introduced that in NI Water. Chatting to a pal of mine recently, and he's enjoying that. You know, so again, some of the things that might be good just for mental well-being. So again, just if Anna or Paul has any comments or anything else at this stage, just on the mental well-being side.
There's none directly. Jodie Harkin just had to dip out early, and she was hoping to get the PowerPoint from you, so that's not a problem. So if anybody else has any input here, it'd be great to hear.
Well, I just jump in there if I can, Niall and Anna. No, I've been through the mental health first aiders, not myself, but I had some staff in a previous role where they were involved in it, and I totally agree with you. It was done about 3 or 4 years ago. It was quite new concept at the time. And I was absolutely amazed about the take-up.
Yeah.
We had a company of a roughly 1,500 people, but we had about 10 mental health first aiders, and it was incredible how, you know, choosing the right person with the right,
yes,
proper training, that's really important as well, and confidentiality is just absolutely critical there as well. But the amount of people who availed of that, rather than going to HR, for example, or their line manager, because they were non-work related, but they were affecting work really in a roundabout way. But it really was a great initiative, and you know, the actual first aiders themselves got a huge amount out of it as well.
Yeah.
And they had, because we were quite a large company, they had a little badge.
Yeah.
So, you know, people knew who they were. Yeah. And there was photographs of them on the notice boards as well, and their contact details and things like that. So, no, I think it was a really, really good initiative. Yeah, it really works well. Would totally recommend it. And the other thing, of course, unfortunately, now, as you're hearing with the lockdown and everything else, you know, there are people really, really struggling between being on furlough or not on furlough. You know, the extra added pressure, the financial pressures, and everything else. I know of one company who is saying that their HR department per se just couldn't cope, and they're preparing for, you know, for more challenges ahead, unfortunately, and they're putting this kind of structure in place to help them through the peak, because they feel that there's going to be more of this in next year, unfortunately. And I think it's a good thing to start thinking about and putting things in place now if you can at all.
Yeah. And just, sorry, Anna.
Sorry, I was just going to say that Una agrees with you, Paul. She's on the call, and she says that she's used her own mental health first aid regularly in the last 2 years with amazing benefits.
There we are. Yeah. And that free will writing service, I hadn't heard of that one, Niall. That's a new one. I just hadn't come across that now. And I love the idea of the EAP program as well, because it's a similar type thing. You can get confidence. There's somewhere to go, really, you know, and talk to somebody, and that's so critical. Yeah, really good.
Yeah, and Paul, just to close out on the mental health first aiders, when I first heard of that 6-7 years ago, I was quite skeptical of it. You know, when you're right, I think you have to be very careful who you choose. You almost would have to do almost like an advert, because there's only a certain amount of people can cope with that. And the confidentiality element. So it's very important, if you're going to do that, how you choose that. You know, I wouldn't suggest you need an interview, but almost some criteria that people are aware what they're letting themselves in for. And secondly, I think it's really important, you know, because sometimes people are fed up going to the line manager, or fed up going to their HR team, or maybe they don't feel they've got a receptive ear. So it is good that there's somebody else they feel that they can go to. Excuse me. And also, it is really good for development. If you have a junior member of staff who maybe doesn't have a really senior part received that they play in the company, they can be, if they have a compassionate ear, that can really drive their development as well in terms of job satisfaction, engagement. You know, it's fantastic as well. So again, a lot of spin-offs from that. So yeah, totally agree with what you've said there. So. Yeah. Okay, guys, we'll maybe press on. I'm going to just talk just very briefly, just general employee engagement. Some ideas, suggestions. Again, as we talked about, look, anything you can do with cross-functional team activities, you know, golfing days out, or, you know, there's football or the running clubs or whatever. It's all good. Volunteering days and projects. Again, I'm going to talk just very quickly about that. I'll give Business in the Community another quick plug here because I use them a lot and they're fantastic. So what I mean by volunteering days. So where, and this just a couple of snippets that how I would have used Business in the Community in the past. So volunteering days. So you could have what we did when our company was, we went out to a local special needs school once a year. Maybe 8-10 people went out. One year it was just tidying up the garden. Next year it was doing a bit of painting. And 8 or 10 people from all managers, shop floor, sales, all staff for a bit of team bonding and get out. And that feel good factor, as they say, it's better, sometimes better giving than receiving and all that. And you're doing that to your local community, special needs school, it really is a great initiative. Individually then, another initiative they had a thing called Time to Read. So you could go out and go to primary school kids who were underachieving and reading and basically help them with some reading. And again, especially if you are maybe not in a high level role in your organization, that can just empowers you and makes you feel good, blah, blah, blah. So again, a couple of initiatives that can help as well, you could consider. The team social nights out, again, back in the day, don't underestimate the power of team nights out as well. Back in the day when I could go out and party and not have a hangover for 4 days, don't underestimate the power of that. They're quite powerful tools as well. And then, Paul, you alluded to this a few minutes back, but we can link this into the charity-based initiatives. Can really get a wee bit of buy-in as well from your employees. Obviously, the local, examples of the Foyle Hospice. I'm sure there's none of us in the call haven't had someone has availed of the Foyle Hospice. I know certainly one of my parents certainly availed of it, and we were very grateful of it. Homeless. So the Pink Month is something we did for October, which is cancer awareness in October for the ladies, and maybe some initiatives around that. Some, coming and giving talks around that. The Movember initiative, which I'm sure people are aware of, where you grow a type of funky moustache or goatee or whatever it might be in November for men, and that's primarily for men's cancer awareness. We're doing that in the factory I'm working in at the minute, and we've, again, you've got to showcase that and give a wee bit of recognition for those involved. So what we've done on the middle of the month, on the 15th of November, we did a photograph on the 1st of November, and then a photograph at 15th, and you've seen the stubble emerging, or not, as the case may be. If you've enough people doing it, you can maybe turn that into an award ceremony for the best mow, for the least mow, and all that stuff. You can do as much as you want there. Get it up in your company notice boards. You're raising money for charity. It's getting back to that social element as well. Brave the Shave, again, I did this first initiative way back 6-7 years ago. We Brave the Shave. We had 5 or 6 people who braved the shave, shaved the hair. We had a couple of ladies who did it. A girl in her late 30s, early 40s, who had, I'm looking at Anna here on the screen, and has hair as long as Anna. And I don't know, maybe you'd be so brave to do that down the line, but she was, and she shaved the head. And, she had a sister who had passed away 2 years earlier. Very, very emotive for everyone in the factory. Again, just get that buzz and buy-in, and the photographs and up. But actually, we did that day. We got a hairdresser in to do it, and we stopped production, and we got one of the bays, and everyone took a turn. The 4 or 5 people, and it was just fantastic achievement, for guys to do that. So, Brave the Shave is another one. Obviously, that one's linked to Macmillan. Bake Off Challenge, and then the refactoring at the minute, we're doing a Bake Off Challenge again. It takes all shapes and sizes to make the word, as you say. And we have one of our production managers who is big into baking, believe it or not, and he wanted to do the Bake Off Challenge and take on all comers. And the winner of that Bake Off Challenge will donate some money to their choice of charity. So again, we bit of crack, we bit of team spread, and all of that, So that's just general employee engagement. So again, Anna or Paul, if there's anything you want to share, or if anybody else has any comments, we'll take them before I pass on maybe to the second last slide.
No, just it's great engagement, really, isn't it? That's what it's all about. Niall really is trying to engage and looking for ideas as well. You can have a suggestion box and stuff like that. That was something I did in the canteen. You can do it through surveys, of course. If you're doing your employee surveys, you can leave a box free and say, can you And agreeing the charity as well, that can be great as well, because you can have a broader charity like Foyle Hospice, or you might have something very local to somebody, and you can split the monies raised then to make it more
appealing
meaningful
for
to
everyone.
them.
Yep.
Yes, you're just trying to keep everybody engaged, but yeah, no, anything like that is brilliant. And people do really value these things, you know, and it gets that team spirit. I mean, there is a selfish element to this as well. It's getting people engaged and feeling good at work and coming in and feeling being part of something. I'm blown away by that story you said about the lady shaving her hair, but I could envisage what happened there. And that must have been an amazing experience for all the staff to see that happening. From an emotion point of view, they'll never forget that, I would guess, anybody in that room that day, you know.
Very, very powerful. Very, very powerful. Probably was the most we ever raised at any event, you know, so it was fantastic. And it was so local, it was so personal. Yeah, it was really good.
That's really good.
Okay, I'll move on. So guys, this is arguably maybe the most important slide, because this is my quick tips. You could say I've done a few programs now, Wellbeing, wider engagement or Wellbeing, and I've made loads of mistakes along the way, and I've certainly learned, you know, so these are just some of the things that I'll happily share with you. Like, you do obviously have to plan in advance, you know, hook in with your senior management team, or maybe you are the managing director and you want to do this, you know, but hook in, you get some approval from above, and away you go. You can get a small budget. You don't, as I showed already, hopefully you don't need a massive budget, but you need a bit of a budget. You will need some bits and pieces to keep things fresh and ongoing, sustain it over a year, 2 years. You will need a small budget, but you know, getting back to the turnover figure, you know, what's maybe a couple of grand a year to one person leaving? It's nothing, you know. You got to tailor it to suit your organization's culture and age demographic. If you're a call center, contact center, and your average age is 25, as opposed to maybe a small manufacturing engineering firm where the average age is mainly male oriented, 45, maybe the average age is 45, 47, 48. Well, then obviously you got to cut your cloth accordingly, and all of these initiatives are all good, but you got to tailor it. You've got to make sure you get a good cross representation into your committee or your forum. You know, so you want ideas, and all ideas are good ideas. You know, that you get that cross representation. Again, I would just, as I say, where I am working presently, I just set up a wee engagement forum or wellbeing forum a couple of months back, and we only have 5 people because there's only 40 employees, but I've got 5 people from all areas of the factory, male, female, mix of ages, and they're throwing things at me left, right, and centre. It's brilliant. Enthusiasm is hanging out of them. It's brilliant, and I'm having to trying to tamper that a wee bit, which is fine, which is good, you know. But I'm getting lots of ideas, you know, so it is all good. Now this is really important. This is really important. Set up a forum charter. So, and that's essentially, you know, even though it's only 3 or 4 bullet points or a few bullet points, what the forum does, and more importantly, what it doesn't do, because you want to get it out there that you don't want to turn this into a gardening shop. You want to get people involved. They're going to be proactive and constructive, and it's not to talk about individual issues. It's not to talk about pay and benefits. It's not to talk about a health and safety issue. They are all important, but this is your well-being forum. That is really important, and you get that out there to your wee committee, and that gets out there. You post that, and all people realize, look, I'm not going to yarn about something that happened 2 or 3 years ago. Sorry, not interested. You know, we're all moving. This is essentially continuous improvement initiative, and it's all about, you know, making things better than they were 3 months ago, 6 months ago. So if you're not willing to get involved constructively, sorry, not interested. Okay, ensure there's a good mix of activities. Again, depending on your company, just that mix of physical, mental, and general engagement. Again, that's pretty straightforward. We've covered that. You know, and again, Paul, you've alluded to this, but yeah, you can map onto local charities, have a charity of the year. So you're reading my mind there, Paul, so fair play to you. So yeah, and that can get the buy-in. And again, you have to be careful now, because people can get a wee bit emotive and personal as to why they might choose something. So I know what we did, we choose a couple. So you're trying to you know, just placate the masses, as it were, you know. So that's important too, but it really helps to get buy-in. And then you can theme or map into the ongoing weekly or monthly events that Anna alluded to at the start. You know, your stress, International Stress Awareness Day, maybe the Pink Month for ladies' cancer. So that's out there in the news and the public domain, all over social media. You tap into that, you use that to your benefit for your own kind of marketing or branding or whatever you might want to do. So this leads into the next point. Branding is really important. Really, really important. Again, I didn't appreciate that until I did it. Get a recognizable logo and name for your wellbeing forum or engagement forum, and maybe get a specific notice board for us. Because I know whenever I used to put up a HR notice board, notice onto the HR notice board, people just looked at it and, yeah, whatever, what's this next? Where if you have an engagement or well-being notice board and you have that brand, people associate that brand and see it, right, there's some positive, there's some good, there's something I might be interested in, something I might want to get involved in. Really enjoyed that volunteering day down at the school last year, right? Wonder what it is. God, the Macmillan Breathe the Shade last year was fantastic. The photographs are still up there, right? So that branding is really, really important. The last bit I have squeezed in there is a calendar of events. So again, just to show it you're proactive, you're really organized. What I've done with the routine there, which we just set up before Christmas, we have already put out. We've called the Spring Summer Calendar of Events. So we have just one thing lined up for each month, and we've posted it in a nice, funky, jazzy calendar. What's happening in November? What's happening in December? Pound for Pound challenge in January. February, it's a Jane McLennan and her diet nutrition. March is our Bake Off challenge. So you just showed you're organizing, you that well laid out. And people, as I say, it's different strokes for different folks. People may only be interested in one of those, but you're getting that hit of engagement by doing that. It just shows you're really organized and all the rest. Get a few quick ones. Don't overcommit. Just get a couple of nice, wee, easy, quick ones to show that your team is organized and they're going to do something. Whatever that might be. Say the quick ones I had a year ago was getting a flu jab and the health MOT for the small sporting voluntary body that I was involved in at the time, and that was really, really useful. And again, where you can, I alluded to previously, but map activities where possible, to your HR people strategy. Okay, so yeah, so guys, that is really the main bits and pieces that I want to cover today. I am going to pass over to for any questions, or happily take any questions or comments at this stage from anyone, or Anna and Paul.
Well, Niall, look, thanks so much. If I can jump in there, Anna, thanks so much for your presentation there. Really has been very insightful, and it's really positive as well to think there are so many small things we can do to make our work environment and our lives better. They're not complicated. As you said, it's not rocket science, but it's just putting a bit of structure around them, which is really nice. And I know the other thing too, which is really nice, and I found this before, is that if you have a department or a particular business or a sector that's really struggling, and maybe there's some friction going on for whatever reason within a department, if you can do something like this and give them a common purpose that's kind of separate too, it can bond a team together. And there's no doubt there's going to be a lot of flux in businesses moving into next year, with people leaving, reorganizations, unfortunately, some potential redundancies, disgruntled employees, and maybe you need to have to kind of take a big helicopter view and say you have to kind of rebuild. A lot of businesses are talking about restarting all over again. And maybe this is a great opportunity to do something like that, to give people a common positive purpose in a very difficult, challenging time. That'll be the only bit I'd have to them. But thanks again, brilliant. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Paul.
One quick question, Niall, before you go there. We've got a lady asking, who or how did you organise the health check flu jab?
Well, in some of the larger companies, they would have occupational health organization already that you use. So companies would normally just tap into that. If you don't have, what I did a year ago, I just went to occupational health provider, just locally, and did it as a one-off. If you just literally Google occupational health. Otherwise, if you do it in advance as well, you can just go to your local GP who may do it. I mean, if you're a smaller company and say it's only what I did for that company was, for example, we put it out in advance and who wants to be able to. So we knew there was 15 people, and we booked out a half a day, whatever it was, Thursday the 30th of November, 1:30 to 5 o'clock, and everyone got a half-hour slot. And then a nurse from the practice just came and did the flu jabs. So either GP practice may be able to do it. Obviously, at the minute, that might be difficult for obvious reasons. But again, it's been a wee bit organised and doing that 2-3 months in advance, so you can book in either via occupational health, and you can do that as a one-off, even if you don't have them as a retainer, or your GP medical practice may be able to do that. But I say, getting in early and getting that organised in advance would be useful.
Great, thanks for that, Niall. And just one last comment from Julie. Great tips, Niall. Just reinforces that simple things can have a big impact on the business, and building a cohesive team and have a bit of fun along the way.
Thanks, Julie. Yeah, appreciate that. I'll sort you out with a few quid afterwards for that. Thanks, Julie.
So unless there's any other questions or comments, or you've got anything else to say, Niall? No last comment? Well, thank you very much on behalf of everybody and us at the Chamber, and hope everybody has a great day.
Thank you, Anna. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye now. Bye.